Attorney General Eric Holder faces a second defeat in his political prosecution and intimidation of pro-life advocates. I'm Matt Barber, Vice President of Liberty Counsel Action. Joining me in studio is Ron Miller, Associate Dean with Liberty University's Helms School of Government. Well, Attorney General Eric Holder's anti-life campaign has been rejected by a second judge who denied a preliminary injunction against pro-life sidewalk counselor Kenneth Scott in U.S. v. Kenneth Scott and Joanne Scott. The government is suing Mr. and Mrs. Scott for up to $35,000 for allegedly blocking an entrance and exit to a Planned Parenthood of the Rocky Mountains in Denver, Colorado. Even before the Scotts were found innocent or proved guilty, the Department of Justice was pushing the judge to restrict Kenneth Scott from being within 25 feet from the entrance or exit driveways for the abortion clinic. In a ruling from the bench, the judge denied this preliminary injunction. And Ron, as you know, Eric Holder and this larger Obama administration have been pulling out all the stops to intimidate, to trample on our First Amendment religious liberties in terms of freedom of speech, certainly freedom of religious expression. We're going to be talking about this a great deal this week with their attacks, President Obama's war against Christianity in mandating that Christian and Catholic hospitals and organizations provide abortifacients and sterilization and birth control and other things that violate express policies and theological positions. And this is scary, the level to which this Obama administration will go to push a radical pro-abort agenda. And as we have seen here in this case in Denver with Mr. and Mrs. Scott, they are willing to use the weight, the power of the federal government to crush private citizens' right to simply get out and educate people about the so-called choice to kill an unborn child.
In fact, that's one of the things that's really sobering about what they're doing. You look at the dollar amounts of these fines that they're proposing and the actions they're looking to take in lieu of any judgment of innocence or guilt. They're determined that not only will they not be allowed to provide an alternative view or additional information, they want to suppress anyone from ever even thinking of going out and doing such a thing. This is intimidation, and this is highly unworthy of a constitutional republic, particularly one with our history of allowing freedom of conscience, which is the wellspring for all our other liberties.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head. That's exactly, we know the mafia. We know the tactics that the mob will use. The Chicago mob will single out one individual who has not fallen into line with their dictates, with paying their protection fees or whatever, and they'll take that person, they'll break their kneecaps, and they'll do it in a very public fashion. That's exactly what this mob-like Department of Justice under the Chicago machine mentality here of Barack Obama, that's exactly what they're doing here. They're singling out this Christian couple, making an example of them publicly to frighten, to intimidate, to bully other pro-life advocates. This has a chilling effect on free speech. Not only is what they're doing on its face unconstitutional and lawless, it is deplorable just from an ethical standpoint. But we have become accustomed with this Obama administration that they are willing to circumvent the Constitution, engage in counter-constitutional and extra-constitutional tactics in order to push their radical secular socialist agenda. This is just another example of that.
And the fact is that they are basically exercising an agenda that's been moving in this country for some time. And I don't believe it represents where most Americans are, but most Americans are not going to have the resources or the fortitude to go out there and put themselves at risk when they see this level of intimidation. And it's not just government. We're talking about the mainstream media. We're talking about the entertainment industry. We're talking about academia. All of these institutions that are responsible for shaping opinion are out there with this incessant drumbeat that says not only is this the accepted way of thinking and believing and speaking and doing, but we forbid you to believe or think or speak any other way. And that is not only un-American, that is biblical, because even Paul speaks about not allowing his liberty, his freedom to be dictated by another's conscience in 1 Corinthians.
Well, the DOJ filed the lawsuit accusing the Scotts of seeking to, quote, cause injury to persons seeking to obtain or provide reproductive health. To cause injury, the, quote, threatening action that the Scotts have taken involves walking up to cars and talking with occupants as they enter the Planned Parenthood of the Rocky Mountains facility. The DOJ is seeking to restrict Mr. Scott's First Amendment rights using the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act, the FACE Act, claiming that Mr. Scott was obstructing individuals from entering the clinic, which is facially false. What becomes clear from the complaint is that even if Mr. Scott is standing in the driveway and a car is also in the driveway, it is more than wide enough for vehicles to circumvent the stopped car. And Kenneth Scott, as he exercises his First Amendment rights, not only was he not intentionally stepping into traffic, not intentionally blocking traffic, there's no evidence that he even crossed the roadway there or that he stepped into traffic. Yet this Department of Justice, again, with the power of the federal government behind it, is going after this couple for allegedly stepping into traffic and blocking cars coming into the clinic. It's absolutely and categorically false, but that hasn't stopped Eric Holder from pushing his agenda yet. I don't expect it will anytime in the future.
And I love the language. They make it sound like he was in the midst of a carjacking or something like that. And then to say that they were impeding access to reproductive health services, there's nothing reproductive about abortion. It halts reproduction. It's more of those euphemisms that they like to put out there so they can feel good about themselves and make other people look the other way. It's so Orwellian, it just chills you.
Well, and anytime you confront the left on that Orwellian euphemistic language that they use, anytime they say, well, I believe in a woman's right to choose, all you have to do is respond with a series of questions. You don't have to be a Bible-thumping, pro-abort to use their language. I mean, Bible-thumping anti-abortionist. You just say, a choice to do what? Well, a choice to end a pregnancy. And how do you end the pregnancy? Well, you perform and then they start getting caught up. You get to the reality of what is actually occurring here. You are going in, you are dismembering a live human being. This is homicide. This is abortion homicide. Once you get around this euphemistic language, they cannot defend on the merits this so-called pro-choice position. Well, Liberty Counsel's case successfully, we say this is the second case, we successfully defended Mary Susan Pine in a similar case against the DOJ named Holder v. Pine. In that case, the judge reprimanded the DOJ, stating this, quote, stretching the terms of FACE to apply to this case so that a desire to provide people with information about alternatives to abortion constitutes an unlawful motive would unjustifiably impinge on Miss Pine's First Amendment rights. So it's not hyperbole to say that Eric Holder's actions here are unlawful. Now, the DOJ is again attempting to argue that the Scotts, in merely standing on a public sidewalk or in a driveway, somehow constitutes a significant physical threat to those who are driving by.
The amazing thing about this is that the judicial system, for once, is actually finding its voice and falling on the side of freedom of conscience and freedom of religious expression. I would like to say it reflects some sea change there, but I actually think it's the efforts of organizations like Liberty Counsel and Divine Intervention that are leading us to this point. So I'm glad to see that they've been slapped not once but twice. I don't think that's going to stop them, but I think that once the precedent's been established, they're going to find that they're going to run into a wall again and again.
Well, Liberty Counsel has been holding judges accountable for quite some time so that they're not engaging in judicial activism, pushing a counter-constitutional policies in the courtroom. We are holding the Attorney General and the Justice Department and President Obama accountable as well. We will not be intimidated. Liberty Counsel will not be intimidated, and we know that there are many pro-life advocates out there who stand with Liberty Counsel who will not be intimidated. We're going to stand up to this bullying and these intimidation tactics. To learn more about Liberty Counsel, go to lc.org or give us a call at 1-800-671-1776. Join us as we stand in the gap to protect the most innocent of our citizens.